Okay.
Go ahead, Mike. Tell us what's going on.
Well, no. It just I took a lot of crap from my friends who happen to be Mets fans because I was making jokes about Bartolo Colon hitting a massive home run, and I said he put his weight behind it.
He did. You know, it's funny. That thing was almost an upper decker, and then it fell short, but it was pretty deep. And you got to admit, for a pitcher, you don't usually see one that goes like that.
Did you guys see the one that Adam Wainwright hit 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
No.
but he's a real. I mean, Wainwright's a real hitter.
I know, but that was still Big Mac land at Busch Stadium. That was pretty impressive.
It was. The one thing I'll say is Cologne got timed for 30 seconds around the base paths for the trot. That's what I enjoyed the most was the trot.
The 30-second trot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a sort of a combination of Babe Ruth and Jeffrey Leonard from the '85 NLCS when he did the one flap down every time he hit a home run. Like he had kept one arm down, and and I hated it. It pissed me off as a Cardinal fan because that's my second favorite team. But the funniest thing was the reaction of his teammates.
Yeah.
They emptied. They emptied they went all into the locker room. They all he comes back thinking they're all gonna like pile on top of him, and there's nobody there.
It was funny.
Guy Boucher is giving his press conference as we speak. Sorry, Guy Boucher is giving his press conference as we speak.
No,
Yeah.
it's over. It's
Oh,
over.
it is? It's on. It says no.
Yeah, he's been fired already.
No, it says
No.
live right now. I'm watching TSN.
Well, all right, because they had it on like an hour ago. I can't imagine it's still going.
Yeah, it's probably maybe they're re-airing it.
Unless he's doing it in French now.
That's possible.
No, he split it up though. I watched it at the beginning. He was splitting it up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I don't know. It's
It's
very
possible it
strange.
could still be going.
I guess so. I mean, it says. I'll show you.
Well,
Look, live. Up there in the corner, right? This is TSN. This is my Sling Box in Canada, which is perfectly legal to have. Live Canadian
Okay.
Tire Center.
All right.
it must be on like a 15-minute delay.
No, I mean it could still be going. I mean I was watching
Yeah,
it
'cause
around 12:30.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking they were gonna be having the USA Finland game, which starts at 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
watched-
you're not okay. Let's get in. By the way, before we're gonna start the show from now. I'm gonna try to, guys. I'm making this to you. I want to start at closer to 1 o'clock. I know, no one believes me. And that's perfectly fine. You can be the boy who cries wolf. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and things. I'm getting things done. Is a week like hanging out with your son in bed, like just trying to, just makes you think about us. That just makes you want to like, get going. So I'm like New Year's Day for me here, and I'm like just really trying to fire myself up. So, and what I want to do is I love our lovely pre-show banter. I'm a big fan of it. A lot of people out there are too. We talked about getting rid of it a couple times. People didn't want that, or at least the people who talked to us didn't want that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna end it at 1:15. So I have a little alarm I set. I'm gonna do it right now in front of you all. Okay? I'm gonna ask Siri to set an alarm. Siri, set an alarm for 1:15 p.m. Monday through Friday for me to start the show.
Set an alarm for more than 1 day ahead. Would you like a reminder instead?
No.
Theory doesn't believe you. She's not doing it.
You can actually go into your alarms. Just you can set an alarm
Yeah,
for
I know.
every day.
I will. Just so you know, I will definitely do that.
It's better for Siri to turn him down because she knows. She knows.
That's not the
what-
first time he's been turned down by a woman. It's okay.
Siri's doing an imitation of
Really?
Siri is doing an imitation of every woman I've asked out on a date the last 10 years.
Siri's just being realistic. She's like,
Damn.
really? Come on, let's move on.
Actually,
Yeah.
you know what? Eck, I'm wrong. That was more of a Mike joke. It just so happened that you said it. It would definitely suit Mike more.
If you mean turning down women that wanted me to marry them before I was 30, yes, I'll answer that question. No, I'm just kidding. Totally wrong. But as a public service announcement, I have found like I talked about food sometime, like ultimate food, like sous vide. I made a sous vide yesterday for Mother's Day. I had the whole family over. They loved it. Don't sous vide beef shoulder though; it's not as good as the regular stuff. So anyway, but now I've been turned on to this snack food, and I like those corn things. Jillian likes them too. We talked about that before. This now is my newest thing. This is Nature's. It's called
They're good.
Nature's Bakery.
Those are good.
These fig bars, the raspberry kind, are just off the charts. They're crazy, and you can buy
they're
them.
good.
It's a
You can buy 'em in-
glorified Fig Newton. That's all it is.
No,
It's
like
a little healthier than a fig.
Yeah, it's whole wheat. Fig is apparently good for you. I don't know.
is.
And or better for you than most things. It's a Swedish snack that has if you're a raspberry fan, which I am a huge raspberry fan, then yes, you'll like that.
Well,
Anyway, just throwing it out there.
By the way, it's
But they have a lot of different flavors. It's not just raspberry. They have a lot of flavors.
Oh yeah,
That's one,
yeah, I'm sure they do.
Actually, it's 116.
All right. 115 on mine. 115. It's 115 in
Your
Pennsylvania.
clock behind you says 116.
Oh, well, that's right. Just wrong. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It did it.
Hey, there's the alarm.
Where's the bell? Come on.
No,
Well,
wait.
it's the 116 alarm. That's good.
All right, here we go.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, May 9th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday around these times to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we got a lot to talk about today. The first thing I wanted is Guy Boucher is giving his press conference right now, or maybe earlier, we don't know, but I'm seeing it live now. On TSN, it says it's live right now. Maybe that was taped. And as we're doing this, the U.S. is about to take on Finland in the World Championships, which is the big matchup of the possible first overall picks.
What a media created load.
It's so fake. My goodness.
Okay, Patrick Laine is having a wonderful World Championship right now. He's leading the World Championships, at least as of Sunday, at the end of Sunday.
No, he's Ovechkin-like, Mike. That's what I heard yesterday. He's Ovechkin-like.
Yeah, he's got 6 points. No one cares. Austin Matthews is the #1 pick. He will be selected by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Stop.
Only because he's a center. Only because the Leafs need a center. That's what they said. Only because he's a center.
That's not
This
the
is a weird media creation. This really
You're
is.
listening to the European reason. That's what you're listening to.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
But European something weird if you think that Laine is going to get
We're anxiously awaiting the ISS top 30 ranking that has Laine ranked like first and Matthews ranked 7th.
Well, let's talk that if only we had a prospects expert on the show. Oh my goodness, we do.
I just did put up my top 30 on Sportsology. We did have a whole show about it. Shane and I argued about it this past weekend.
I heard it. It was really good.
final.
It's available online, isn't it, Russ? You can listen to that online, can't you?
Yeah, no, I haven't put it up there, but I probably will.
Sorry, it's not available online.
I'm going to put it up there. But anyhow, here's the thing. When you're playing at the end of the season like this, if this is like the first time you're seeing these guys or the second time you're seeing these guys, you haven't seen them enough to sort of make a determination, hey, Laine's #1 pick based on what you're seeing here. Guys get tired. Guys have had full seasons. It's not the best scouting opportunity. And it's the World Championships. No offense, but these guys aren't playing like everything's on the line.
Yeah, let me just say this. Patrick Laine is playing with Alexander Barkov and Leo Komarov on the #1 line for Finland. Austin Matthews is playing with Jordan Schrader. That's all I have to say.
I mean, I like Jordan Schrader. I don't want to kill him.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I get what you're saying. I will say this. How about this? Watching that game against Belarus, and Matthews had 2 goals against Belarus too. It's like watching Forsberg against Japan. Like they're not even in opposition.
No, I do agree with that.
I just think this is something with you got a bored Canadian media. They got no teams to cover right now because all of them are outside the playoffs. They got a bunch of Canadian teams drafting in the top 10, and they got to stir something up. And here's another thing too: if Matthews were from Mississauga, this would not be a question. It wouldn't be, which is crap.
Oh my God! Patrick Laine may be better than Austin. I mean, really? I mean, come on. It's a joke. Austin Matthews
just gives the Leafs fans something to worry about. That's what I like about it.
That's what it seems like. You're right. That's exactly what it seems like.
Like, oh my God, we got the first pick. They had 1 week, count it, 1 week of happiness, thinking that they were just going to get Austin Matthews. That was going to be all they'd have to think about. They'd have a good summer. They'd go up to their cottages. They'd enjoy their lives. But now that's not happening. We've got to worry about that we're making a mistake here.
Actually, no, that's not the. It's the fact that right now there's no story because the Leafs have #1. If the Leafs had #2, it's like, okay, was there a chance they're going to go Austin Matthews?
Oh, I saw somebody tweet out the other day. I wish we had #2, so I knew we weren't making the mistake. I saw that the other day.
We didn't watch PRV be better than both of them.
Right. Who knows? I mean, so
possible. That is possible, but the idea is for someone to make a moronic tweet like that is just stupid. It's like, guys,
This is the product of a organization that tells you to expect pain. This is what's happening. This is at the end of the day. This is what you get. You get a messed up. This is like a dysfunctional family, and this is a dysfunctional kid who's saying, "I wish we didn't have the first pick because I don't want to screw it up."
I'll tell you this. I met Mark Hunter. He'll talk prospects all day long. I met him last year at the Combine briefly, but that was more of an interview. This was more like getting introduced. This guy will talk prospects all evening long. They don't expect pain when they're picking prospects. That's not what they're talking about. They're very confident about that part.
Heck, they were talking about pain going into an atrocity of a season when they know that they had the worst lineup.
I know we've been down that road, but there is something that happens though. There is a byproduct.
It reminds me of when all of a sudden towards the draft, Duchesne and Tavares suddenly became neck and neck, and there was this camp that Duchesne should go number one, even though it was it was never going to happen.
It was never neck and neck.
And I
said, I know that, but the media led you to believe that for a while.
And all of a sudden, after being the presumptive number one pick from June 25th of last year till March. All of a sudden, oh my God, Patrick Laine, he's catching up to Austin Matthews. It's baloney. It's crap. Austin Matthews is the number one pick. Patrick Laine could be an NHL All-Star. I think he's an impressive young player. I think Puljujarvi is impressive as well. I think he may be as skilled as the other two. I think Matthew Tkachuk is going to be a great NHL player. I think this is a very good draft. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden Patrick Laine, because the Maple Leafs head of scouting is from Finland, that means that Patrick Laine is going to be the number one pick.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, bum, bum.
Zippity doodah.
Yes,
I'll tell you this. If Laine is picked first, that number two team will be the happiest team in the last 10 years.
Right, there's no
except Austin Matthews, he'd have to go play in Winnipeg.
Doesn't matter. Winnipeg would be clicking their heels.
Yes.
I know, I'm joking. I'm making fun of the city.
I mean, there is no way that's going to happen, and we know that Austin Matthews is going to be. But it is just one of those things because we have seen history shows us that if you have two guys that even if they're evenly matched, the North American will tend to have the advantage. This case where Austin Matthews is probably a better player anyway, he's going to have the advantage.
This is just the case of the Toronto media not wanting to write about the under 500 Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, maybe. It's also though that they love. I mean, the Toronto media. All right, this is their dirty little secret about all these things. Sportsnet, TSN, and all that stuff is they're all in Toronto, right? And they all hate the Maple Leafs. And because I've been in these, I've been around them. They all talk.
They own the Maple Leafs.
No, they hate the Maple. I mean, the people who are reporting on them can't stand because they're inundated with Maple Leaf stuff, and they're national guys, and they don't want to just be Maple Leaf guys. So there's a deep-seated psychological thing about this. They do not like the Maple Leafs just because they don't want to like the Maple Leafs, and they don't. And the fans themselves, and they go around, and all they hear are questions. Oh, what's going on? They live in a city that is Toronto. They have Maple Leaf fans everywhere. So.
And I think
it's frustration and resentment. They wish. I think Eck has something. There's definitely the national media wants to do more than just talking about William Nylander and guys like that when there's bigger stories. But because of where they are and the market and the size of the market being in Toronto, they have to go chase some Maple Leaf ambulances when there's better stories right around the corner.
That's right. You're exactly it. And they also don't want to. They really want to be considered national people, and even though and there is a natural thing too, and I feel this myself, and I mean because I'm in Philadelphia, there's this thing whenever I talk about the Flyers or whatever, I do feel like I have to not talk about the Flyers. I really try not to talk about the Flyers until they become really newsworthy. Because I don't want to be told, because I'm a national reporter, I don't want to be told that I'm Philadelphia centric, even though I live in Philadelphia. I'm credentialed in Philadelphia. It's a tricky thing, and they're credentialed in Toronto, so they're going to these games too. So it's tricky.
Far be it from me to complain, but excuse me, when 1/3, I think it is, I mean, my numbers may be off a little bit, but when 1/3 of the population of the country of Canada is in the GTA, when I think it's about 10 million people, and
which is the greater Toronto area for those of you, not the.
I was thinking Grand Theft Auto. I'm like, what?
Not Grand Theft Auto, no.
You have to cater to that market, and so if you're working for one of those networks and you don't like it, then go work in Regina.
Well, here's the thing. Why don't they talk about donuts more? There's more donut shops in Toronto than any city in North America.
I like donuts. We should take a field trip.
Oh, man, there's a place near us. My daughter, not to get on the donut tangent. Sorry. That's
Is your alarm going off again?
That's my alarm that says don't talk about donuts.
Alarm.
Yeah. That sounds about right. That's exactly right. The 1:15 alarm goes off at 1:25.
No, I hit the snooze button on the 1:15 alarm. I screwed up. That's what happened.
Okay, let's talk about the playoffs.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's get into the playoffs, and of course we've got to start with the one team that is no longer in the playoffs.
No, we don't. No, we don't have to start
Okay,
there.
Yeah, we're starting with that. Yes, we
No,
are.
we don't have to start
Who
there.
made you producer, Russ?
That's right. I'm gonna let's not start there. Let's talk about Washington Pittsburgh first, okay? Because this is kind of what I wanted to talk about anyway. No. Washington's still alive, or as I say in Washington is still alive. In South Jersey, we call it Washington. Washington is still alive, and very much so, actually. That they actually came out and they played a good old style Caps game, and that has to put a little bit of doubt into the Penguins, and so much to the point now that we have a little bit of a goalie controversy going on in Pittsburgh. Finally,
Well, there's no
Now,
goalie.
Murray's in. Murray's in.
Murray's in. And the thing is, I mean, it's not. I mean, Game 5 can be knocked down to this. Braden Holtby was incredible.
He was, and that's what they needed. They needed him to steal a game to get everything, to try and level the ship and get things back on track, and he did that.
But
That's
Trotz
it.
got faster, too. They put Schmidt in. They took out Weber. I mean, he did make some changes. There's a huge change they made in practice today, but I want to let X finish first.
no, I really felt like this was the series we wanted to see, right? This game to me was the Caps doing their thing and the Penguins doing their thing. It was maybe the best game of the series. In some ways, it was not as exciting as the other games because the Penguins won a run and gun more. But I felt like the Capitals. I thought this was a huge win for the Capitals. Not just, I mean, even if they lose the series, they just could not be beaten in 5 games. It could not. I mean, if they lose in 6 or 7 games and the Penguins go on and roll from here, which they might, then the Caps aren't going to be able to sit there and say, oh man, we just haven't been. I mean, they're going to say it, but there's
Because no one likes losing in 5 games.
No, but
Right.
losing in 5 games is really lame, right? And especially if you're the President's Trophy winner and you lost 5 games. I'm just saying that's like you cannot be the President's Trophy winner and get eliminated in 5 games. This team
they're
didn't
in the
lose
second
4 games
round.
for
They're in the
3.5
first round.
months in the regular season. They lost 4 games in 2 weeks here. That's just not going to happen.
President's Trophy doesn't mean anything anymore. They're out of the first round. But there's a line now, an all-Russian line that the Caps have. It's Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and Oshov. And I think that's going to be a good line.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, hey, he had his greatest career note in Sochi, so there you go.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Oshie played a really good game in Game 5. Ovechkin played well. I mean, I think it was more the fact that you cannot depend, if you're the Caps, you cannot depend on Holtby to do everything for you, and he did almost everything for them in Game 5. They have to be able to win if Holtby is having an average night.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like they have to step up their play. You've got to get more production out of Kuznetsov. You have to get more work out of the secondary guys like Beagle and Chimera and Justin Williams. You need those guys to produce. Otherwise, if they shut down Ovechkin and they shut down Oshie, they've shut down the Caps. And that's
They have more depth. The Caps have more depth. They've been able to juggle a little. The Penguins have no depth. That's the one thing.
I think the Caps' top 6 is better, but I think the Penguins' bottom 6 is deeper.
No, but they're bench players that they can bring into the lineup. The Caps have guys they can put into the lineup. Like Michael Lotta hasn't played, but he has playoff experience.
He should be playing.
Huh?
He should be playing over guys like Richards.
Well, he should be in my mind, but he's not going to. But I'm just saying they have guys they can bring in and have brought in that have playoff experience. Pittsburgh doesn't have that.
Now the one thing
One second. We have such an evil fan base of people who are in hockey that follow this show, and I just got a text that said, "Tell Mike that Line A and Matthews just collided knee on knee at center ice, and both are being taken off in stretchers."
And it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter.
From an NHL.
First overall pick from the University of Connecticut, Tage Thompson.
Yeah,
Sorry, I had to throw that. It just
Wouldn't matter.
And the same ambulance crew that dumped Mike Modano when he was on the stretcher is handling Austin Matthews right now.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
That was funny.
I know.
Props to that person.
That was funny.
I'll tell you guys who it was later.
Yeah.
All right, continue.
Thanks, Mr. Trump.
No. No, I know that totally threw us off the rails. I apologize. We're talking about Washington, Pittsburgh.
That was a cannonball act. You just
That really was. I know. Everyone's running to their TVs to see if it actually happened. I know it did not happen. I've got the game on over there, so it's not. Everybody's skipping around. Matthew,
you have the Shawinigan game on like I do?
No, I have the Finland USA game, but both are on TSN. The TSN
I'm
2.
DVR in that one. I'm watching Shawinigan because they're really playing for a championship.
Yeah, unfortunately, the person who's 5 miles away from the Canadian border can't get TSN. It's geo blocked for me.
There's ways around that.
Well,
it's an amateur move, Mikey.
That's completely amateur. Do you have YouTube?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then you can get around it fairly easily.
Yeah, there's ways.
The one interesting thing about, and obviously things can change before Game 6 tomorrow night, but I did not see any notification about Orpik at practice. And Orpik,
I haven't heard anything either.
His suspension is up. He's eligible to play for Game 6, but we know that his lack of mobility has been a hindrance to him. And if they're feeling comfortable using Schmidt and Taylor Chorney instead of putting in Orpik, that then maybe Barry Trotz has made a decision just to go without the veteran guy. But it's also if they do that, he's making over $5 million.
It doesn't matter.
That's the Capitals' fault, not Barry Trotz.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm saying, this is a guy who's under contract for another 3 or 4 years.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a bad deal.
It's a bad deal, but I will say this. I don't think he plays in Game 6. If it turns into a Game 7, then I think Orpik will play, because then I think that the style of play will change again. Teams will be more cautious, but he's not going to play in a running gun game like this. I don't think. I wouldn't play him.
Yeah, he'll be a penalty killer in Game 7. They'll have him on the bottom pairing and penalty killing.
Well, now I think that the Leafs should now trade their first pick because the Finland has scored a goal.
Is it line A?
No, it's not. It's Mikko Koivu, who I think would help them a lot.
He's going to get drafted all over again.
And because Koivu scored and Matthews was on the bench, line A is clearly better.
It was from Granlund, and I believe line A, but I'm not sure. I just saw the goal.
Secondary assists are important.
Trade the first pick for a 32-year-old center who's overpaid. Thank you.
And Granlund, who we've all been there before. So let's move on to the other series. Let's go to the Predators and Ducks. Sharks. Predators and Ducks. That was a while ago.
Bruce Boudreau wishes you could do that.
I know, and then we got to talk about that too. So the Predators and Sharks. This this series is basically going exactly as I think many of us thought it would go right now. Like if this series ends in 6, I wouldn't be surprised. Although I could see the Predators taking this to 7.
Well, I mean, and Russ and I talked about this on the weekend. You had the Sharks are up 2-0 going to Nashville. Basically, all they have to do is win one game, and they're not saying they laid down, but they became the Sharks. They just, there was no oomph, there was no impetus, there was no desperation.
Yeah, I think you're discounting Nashville. I think you're disrespecting Nashville.
I'll tell you what this series is like. It's like when you play Mortal Kombat and you're playing Liu Kang and the computer plays Liu Kang. That's what this series is. I'm telling you.
I like that.
Is it bad that I clearly understand that? That's a great analogy.
I don't. So
finish.
I'm not dissing Nashville. I'm just saying that. I mean, if you look at the effort that the Sharks have put in games 1, 2, and 5, where they were clearly the better team. Games 3 and 4, they didn't mail it in. It's a playoff game, but they didn't play up to that level. And you know what? Just as an observation, without Mike Ribeiro in the lineup, 2-0. With Mike Ribeiro in the lineup, 0-3. Why change a lineup that's winning and put in Mike Ribeiro in Game 5? I don't understand. Especially when he
let's consult with Carrie Underwood, because he's the one who's got every Nashville fan excited about Nashville more so than the actual fans. No, I'm kidding. I think it's a good series. I think Nashville has played pretty well, and I'm still not thrilled with Rene's play though. I think.
Well, remember, I mean, this was a third overtime goal away from being a 3-0 series, so it's not.
And Rene was fantastic in that game.
In that game, but he wasn't great last game.
I agree.
Desperately
are the matchups? Are the home road matchups that big in this game, or when Nashville's in Nashville, they can really set the matchups with Weber and Yossi? Is it that big of a deal?
It probably is. It probably is.
You got to give Laviolette really good at that kind of stuff. So there is definitely an advantage. Not I don't know if it's a full goal advantage, but it's something. There's a definite advantage there, and you could argue that definitely in game 3, the triple overtime game, it helped a lot. I would say it's 2-0 Finland now. Again, Laine has not scored.
Why are you giving us the score on DVR?
Which shows you how unselfish.
Okay, I will not say anything else then.
It shows you how unselfish Laine is and how he really is a 200-foot player and should be drafted.
Yeah, and this time he decided he was so unselfish he would sit on the bench.
He's letting his teammates score even when he's on the bench.
Yep, he's not an attention hog. He's a team player, good in the locker room, intangibles that are unquantifiable. Definitely better.
Maybe I'm old school, but I still consider the World Championships as a virtually meaningless tournament. It's become more meaningful in the last few years because young players are playing in it. But I still go back to this is the tournament where the first round eliminated players are playing, and they I know it has more interest in Europe to European players. I think the Canadians and the Americans go over there for the vacation after a long season.
Mike, when you're an Islanders fan, that's the only time you could see Islanders players play in the spring for a long time. So I was always a big fan.
Come on, let's talk about this.
I'm ready.
Wait a sec. I do think this is a little bit blown up now because the TSN has the contract for this in Canada, and they didn't have hockey all year, so they're making a big deal of this, and all the TSN thing is going on. I think that also helps. I think it's a fun tournament. It's an interesting tournament because you get a chance to see these potential prospects against NHL players, which is kind of good. And then you also get a chance. In this case, you definitely have guys who are auditioning for the World Cup of Hockey out there too. So that's going on. So that is also interesting. So I like it. Canada should play against Belarus, and where the Kostitsin brothers are still the best players on that team. That's not fair, in general.
Yeah, but if Mikhail Grabovski was there with them, that they would be fighting the Kostitsins. He'd be fighting the Kostitsins. It'd be an internal Belarus fight.
Yeah, but even then, that's not going to match up against a team with McDavid on it. So,
it would be like us playing basketball against the 76ers. It wouldn't be fair to the 76ers.
That's right. Right.
I got a good low post game.
Yeah, I can move the ball around the key, but all right. So let's go to St. Louis and Chicago.
Oh, come on! I'm ready. I'm mentally prepared.
I'm living 2 weeks ago. Let's go to St. Louis, Dallas.
Thank you.
This series is holding. You don't want to talk about the Islanders. I'm staying away from it.
No, I'm ready. I got props.
I'm trying. Okay, all right. Let's go to the Islanders. I'm trying to give you a break here. All right,
let's get it over with.
No, you're just delaying. You're like slowly pulling the Band-Aid off of the scab. That's what you're doing.
Don't bury the lead.
All right, no, we're not going to bury it. Before we start, though, the Islanders Tampa, I want to welcome the Islanders beat writer to our HockeyBuzz.com, who I talked to over the weekend and worked out something. He's going to help us.
Tampa.
Help us, Eric Erlinson. You definitely follow him.
Tampa.
What's wrong with me? I'm so sorry, guys. I am not.
Can we go back to 115?
Yeah, you know what? I am so sorry. All right.
It's okay. Just take 2. Let's go. You got it.
All right. We would love to welcome beat writer from the Tampa Bay Lightning, Eric Erlinson.
Formerly of the Tampa Tribune.
Currently of HockeyBuzz.com, Eric Erlinson, who joined us over the weekend, which is awesome. I had some talks with him going into that, and I just can't respect the guy enough. We know that Ty Anderson has already been covering Tampa, but he was fired. I fired him quicker than you could say Jack Robinson. Now he's still helping and covering the Tampa Lightning as well. So the two of them are going to be working, which is really merited because Tampa has a lot going on right now. They're obviously going to the conference finals, and beyond that, there's the little Steven Stamkos issue to deal with. Eric's going to help us cover that throughout till the middle of July, so that'll be great, and we should have a good grasp on the Stamkos situation. So definitely stay tuned, and we're also going to have Eric on this very show in the near future.
Cool.
And as well as the Cranky Hockey Raiders, where I told him he's officially able to go on the Cranky Hockey Raiders now because of what happened to him. He's officially now a jaded, cranky old hockey Raider. So he will be. But yeah, the Tribune handled that very, very poorly. And but he's around. So let's jump into the Islanders series now. The Islanders Tampa series. Yesterday was a tough game. Obviously, what are your thoughts, Dan?
All right. Okay. Let's. I need a little music to get going here. Now, should I talk like the guy with the deep bass in the baby? I'm sorry, Islanders fans. Okay, all right.
A long time now.
I couldn't help it. I needed something. I was going to use that for the podcast tomorrow. Now I got to think of another sad, depressing song. I got plenty to choose from. It's an interesting. Games 3 and 4 were coin flip games, and they both went Tampa's way, and Tampa showed that they were a little deeper up front and a little more experienced, and you just see the difference of development between their young players and the Islanders' young players, where guys like Kucherov and Killorn and Palat and Johnson have just taken off and they're skyrocketing. You got guys like Strome and Nelson that have just hit walls, and you don't know what you really have to examine them in the offseason. But, I mean, that's a question for another time. What do you do with these kids? What's their future? Is this what they are at this point? It was a good season for the Islanders. You won a round in the playoffs. I think that's a great thing. You got to the second round. There's only 8 teams left. That's great. With that being said, you think you want something a little better against a team without Stamkos and their number 2 defenseman. But it's also a reflection of how much work there still is to be done. And with everything going on in Brooklyn right now, with the guys' contracts up, this is probably Garth Snow's most important offseason ever.
That's very well said, and I want to add to that. I think that in a way, especially with all those contracts coming up, it would have been a problem if this team had gone into like the conference finals. I know that's a real glasses half full type thing, but you wouldn't get a perspective on how good this team really is because of their path there. Florida's a good team. Florida could have very easily won the series.
Sure.
Tampa, this series could have gone either way, but I honestly feel like the Islanders are not a conference finalist yet. And I think when you look at it, you tell yourself they're just not there yet, and that's okay because they're progressing forward, which is good. But we've seen sometimes you go too far, then some of the guys you have to bring back because you went far, and I think that in a way the Islanders went as far as they needed to have hope for the future and to have a real sense of things. I thought it was a real successful playoffs for them. That's my opinion.
It was a successful playoffs, but the problem was I saw things in that game that I didn't like. Well, the first thing is we all know Tampa's depth just eventually killed the Islanders. You could play the grittiest game you want, the toughest game you want, but talent won out there. So that wasn't surprising. I thought maybe the Islanders, I picked in 6 because I thought maybe they'd squeak out another. But here's the 2 things. I mean, we learned that Greiss can be a number 1 goalie if the defense is right. Their defense isn't right yet. You have Pulak in the hole next year. It'll be better. But the problem is, when they were down a goal, you have Alan Quine on the line matching up against Brian Boyle. That was a huge mismatch. Boyle just totally took advantage of him. It's again, we're
who else are putting out there?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what other. I mean, I would have rolled another line.
That's a reflection of the roster that was put together by Garth Snow.
Yeah,
because
it's not
if you got to resort to guys like Al, if you're looking, okay, let's try Alan Quine with John Tavares, let's try Shane Prince with John Tavares, that's a problem.
But both of those guys in the first round looked really good with John Tavares.
And I think they're good depth role players, but the Islanders need more stars in their top 6. They need someone that is comparable to John Tavares, not someone that John Tavares can make better. They need someone that's on his playing field because people are like, oh well, John Tavares didn't have a great series. He put the puck on the guy's stick 4 or 5 times in games 3 and 4 that probably should have ended up in the back of the net.
Well, the point was made, and you were talking during about when we were talking about Nashville and San Jose about Nashville matching up their defense. I mean, John Cooper decided to match up Hedman against Tavares for as much as he could, and it shows you what a difficult situation Tampa is going to be in next year if he goes to UFA because they
can't let that happen.
That guy is going to make $7.5 million in free agency if easily. But he's a top pairing 30 a game guy, and he didn't neutralize Tavares, but he severely limited him.
He stepped up. He stepped up as the series went on. His offense
and they didn't have to respect anyone else on the line, so they could absolutely focus on him.
Yeah. Right. No, that I think is a concern for the Islanders going forward. I mean, Tavares is one of the top, I'd say, 3 or 4 centers in the league. You're lucky to have a guy like that. You have the top 2, top 3 defensemen who are really excellent in Boychuk, Leddy, and Hamonic. But Hamonic's situation, he wants out. I think
he had a bad game. He lost it with that penalty. He really lost it.
Honestly, he wasn't. The top 4 defensemen were not great the entire postseason. The best 2 defensemen on the Islanders were Pulock and Hickey.
Yeah, and I think you have Pulock coming in next year, looking forward. I mean, you have to move Hamonic. I think that this situation's got to be resolved in the summer. If you're looking for a winger for John Tavares, then maybe you go to Edmonton and you get Jordan Eberle in a Travis Hamonic deal. You have to make decisions on whether you're going to re-sign Oposo. I don't think
he's not coming back.
Do you think that they'll re-sign Franz Nielsen? I think that makes sense.
I think they will.
It depends on the number. It depends on the number, basically. He's 32.
It doesn't depend on the number anymore, I don't think, because they have new ownership.
Let me rephrase that. It depends on the term. I don't think they give a 32-year-old a 5-year deal.
But it's time that you start moving up those young guys in the pipeline. Move in Dal Cole if you think he's ready. Move in.
He's not. Well, the problem is, if you do that, Mike, once again, you're playing the if game. If Barzell is good, if Dal Cole is good, they need guys with proven. I know that. We think that. We also thought that Nelson and Strome were going to be good players by now. They need to stop taking the if out of the equation. They need to acquire some guys that you can write down 30 goals for.
I agree. And you have to trade some young assets to do it, and I would do that this summer. There's no question about it. Because losing Okposo is going to hurt. They're going to trade his rights for like a 4th or 5th or a 6th round pick at the draft, and that's going to hurt. Now it
won't hurt if you replace him with somebody.
Right, but and they're going to look. I think with new ownership, they're going to spend money, and I think they do have to get a forward for Hamonic. I think that's the way it has to go. They have depth defensively. The offensive players, until they're ready, you've got to get that forward. So I think that that's a part of it. But then we do have to say, even though he got over the hump, did Capuano coach a great series? I don't think he did. Here's something I would have done with Tavares, and I know it sounds easy for me to say. Remember what Jaromir Jagr used to do? He used to sort of hide on the bench and would just go out on the ice at times where you didn't know where he'd be. That's what I would have done to Tampa, so Tampa couldn't have matched up against them when they were on the road.
I'm with
That's
you.
fair.
That would have been smart. I thought about that a couple times. It was getting predictable. Like you knew.
Give him a shift on the 4th line. Give him a shift on the 3rd line. Give him a shift on the 2nd line. Yeah.
You're watching it, and Tavares is one of those players you wait to come out the next. You're waiting for his next shift all the time, and you're watching the game. And you could pretty much predict his next shift. You're like, oh, he's going to be out now, and he was. He was out every time you thought about it.
Other than the free agent signings of Kulemin and Grabowski, Garth Snow has just taken this patient approach regarding, the organization. He traded for Boychuk and Leddy, but he had teams that were in awkward cap positions.
Traded for Halak too.
He's got to go out there now, and if you can get an established player for a Ryan Strome who is at the end of his entry level deal, who's had I think one good year and one subpar year.
Subpar is being very generous.
Yeah, you have to do it, and I think there are teams out there that maybe still believe that Ryan Strome can be a good player, and maybe they're looking to shed salary. And this team has cap room. They have the ownership situation changing over from Wong to the other owners. So I mean, this is the time for Garth Snow, if he's going to be the guy, if he's the one who's going to lead this team going forward, to make some moves to make them get to that next level.
I did talk to somebody during the trade deadline who told me that he expected that it was possible that Strome could be moved at the draft, and that there were people that were definitely talking to him, and it could be a part of an Okposo trade actually, or part of the rights for Okposo type thing, right. Where he would go with them, and one person speculated as far. Now this is of course the general management has changed there and everything like that, but that why wouldn't Phoenix try to bring the Strome brothers together, that they would make that.
I would do that, and maybe you have to get an RFA back, right? Like Hansel's an RFA, right? Maybe that's who you got to go. I mean, but he could play. I mean, Dan, he could play.
Too soon to trade Ryan Strome to me, though. And at the end
well, here's the thing.
No,
I think you're trading one of Nelson or Strome if it can make you better right now. If you have to put him in a package to get a bona fide player that you can put in your top 6 and feel comfortable with, I don't think you're giving them away for nothing.
Right.
No, but
I think that's fair to say.
I would keep Nelson. He's got size. Nelson was never going to.
He doesn't use it. He doesn't. God. Noel Fogelman had a great tweet yesterday. He said the most contact Brock Nelson made all season was in the handshake line.
I saw that. That was awesome.
And you know what? You have
not every big guy's physical, but they take up space on the ice.
You
can fight in the corners. You got guys like Alan Quine and Shane Prince fighting for their lives in their corner. Go in there with that 6'3" frame and try and win a puck. You don't have to put someone on their ass.
this was a
and I think that's the positive of this whole thing is that you look at Quine, and you look at Prince, and these guys definitely rose above their level sort of to a degree in the beginning. They learned and they went through it. We went through a playoff series, and we talked about the Flyers making the playoffs. There's sometimes a benefit to making the playoffs in that if you have a lot of young players, in that they almost get an extra season under their belts. It's like like now he's played another year altogether because the playoffs have there's so much emotion involved in it. It almost gives you a feeling like you played another year. Like if you just come back and play next year, having not gone to the playoffs, you're definitely in your second year. But if you go to the playoffs, you really feel like you're in your 2.5, almost 3 years.
But Dan, also the fact is that this was a lost year for Anders Lee after scoring 20+ goals. I mean, they think they need to get him.
Yes and no. Him not being there showed a glaring need for more of a net presence. While the points didn't always go in, he was the only one that could get in front of the net and cause havoc for a goalie. There were many times this year where the puck didn't hit him, but his screen caused the goal directly. And so while he didn't have 24 goals, he still finished in double digits. I think that's going to happen with a guy like that. Some years the puck's going to hit his butt and go in, and some years it's going to miss him. But he's screening the goalie and he's doing the hard work, and the puck's still going to go in. They definitely missed him when he wasn't there.
But I think it's safe to say that it would be a mistake for the Islanders in their current construction to stand pat. I think.
They can't. It's impossible. They cannot stand pat.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Bruce Boudreau and
do you want to quickly touch on St. Louis Dallas just to finish on?
Yeah, they've got another game coming up tonight.
Right. Yeah, just
Seguin's not playing either.
No. Who's not? No, what's that now?
Seguin.
Tyler Seguin's not playing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, St. Louis should wrap up this series tonight based on the way.
They should.
Yeah, I mean, I give Dallas credit for winning that Game 4 and showing some intestinal fortitude, but in Game 5. They were outclassed.
Again, though, and like I said before, I mean, now this is an elimination game, and there's definitely something when elimination games is different than when you get blown out, and you come back. Now the team smells blood. Now the Blues should smell blood tonight. They should be able to keep motivated despite the fact that they won that last game relatively easily. They should be able to go out and do this, especially when you see Tampa going for it. Like I talked to somebody last night about this, a player, and he was like, seeing Tampa shake hands in that line going to the conference finals, that makes you really hungry. He's like, that's like, you're like, oh man, they're going. I know guys on that team now that are in the conference finals. I want to be in the conference finals. There's a definite thing. Like, this is where it's going to, and I can't imagine, St. Louis not coming out tonight and taking it to them. If they don't take it to them tonight, then I will have questions on St. Louis in the next round, because I think that's when you have to tonight determines a lot. Like if San Jose comes out tonight flat against Nashville again on the road, or for whatever you want to say about Laviolette, if they come out flat again, then you have to wonder a little bit about San Jose, and are they remember, these players on these teams haven't been to third rounds. They haven't played this long into the playoffs before, and there's an issue. As the playoffs go on, it becomes a different game. It becomes a different mental challenge. It becomes a physical challenge in different ways, and you really have to find another step. That is why Tampa looks so good, in my opinion, because Tampa has been through this before, and that showed a lot. You can see that Tampa they know what it takes to go. This is only the second round for Tampa. They're like, we got 2 more rounds still, because they've been last year. They were in 4 rounds of the playoffs.
And the most impressive thing about Tampa is the fact that, again, without Stamkos and without Stroman, that other guys have. Kucherov is an assassin. He is.
They're so well coached, Tampa. That's all I can say.
Seriously, Kucherov might have one of the top 10 releases in the game. His shot's insane.
Yeah.
The combination of speed, he gets his nose dirty too. He really does. He's always where the puck is. He's just a special player. I really like Slater Cuckoo. I think he's going to be a good player. I'm not sure he's not going to be a star or anything. I think he's going to be a good defenseman in this league.
He is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't help but think of the Lego Movie when I hear his name. But yeah, there's
Oh, I gotta watch that. It just came out on HBO. You told me I need to watch that movie.
Dude, I want to hear you after you. I want to talk to you afterwards.
All right, I'll watch it tomorrow.
Give me a call after you watch it.
Okay.
I want to say Patrick Laine is definitely better than Austin Matthews. Watching this game, I am convinced. Now I'm only watching it while doing something else, of course, but and I'm only watching him play live for the first time. Just kidding, but like it's why people are like overreacting. But you can see where he is right now. He is definitely playing with confidence. He's got it going on. He does have that. He does plant himself in that Ovechkin spot on the power play, and that's his thing. He scored a goal yesterday that way. He just almost scored one today.
How many hits are being laid in that game? How much great defense is being played in that game? Come on,
Yeah, I know. They're talking to Patrick Laine right now. They're interviewing him here. So here's what we're saying. He's like saying, "Yeah, I would play for the Maple Leafs. I would."
I heard he speaks better English than Austin Matthews too.
Yeah, I think that I look a lot more like Matt Sundin than Austin Matthews does.
Yeah, look at my hair.
Yeah.
Patrick Laine doesn't talk with a 15-second delay.
Mike, how do you feel? Mike, how do you feel about Patrick Laine's hair?
My beautiful flowing locks. Yep. He's an attractive man.
Yes.
He's
he's 18.
like him as the host. I'll admit that.
He's 18. Yeah.
He's a child.
He's a child. I know, but I've got a niece who like watches the show all the time, and she's 16 or she's 20. I mean, so she could do this. I mean, not like that, but.
All right, where were we? We were talking about the Predators, and no.
Notice that the show just comes to a halt whenever we talk about the World Championships.
St. Louis. We're back to St. Louis.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks. The professional. Yep. We really respect and love your professionalism.
I'm reeling everyone in here.
You are the producer, and I really so much appreciate it. I wish I could pay you full time to do this all the time because we.
Me too.
Okay, so yes. So tonight, let's move on. Let's move on to Boudreau. Bruce Boudreau had a wild week last week. He interviewed with a bunch of people. He played golf with Wayne Gretzky. Actually, I did all those things too. And then he ends up signing a contract. This is where we differ. He signs a contract with the Minnesota Wild. And this is a good move for the Wild. I think this is a good fit for him. This is a good place for him to be. The Wild have been through coaches that are good, but they have. The Wild believe that they are one step away. Like they believe they are close, and this is what Boudreau did. Now we can debate whether they are.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's funny, yeah, because when last week when you were not on the show, Russ and I were talking about the fits of the individual coaches for the teams, and I said that I thought that Boudreau was a fit for Minnesota because of that perception that there's a veteran team. They're sort of locked in cap-wise. They don't have. There's not a lot of wiggle room. They need that.
They're in cap hell.
I know.
They are in cap hell.
They need a player-friendly guy to come in and change the chemistry in that team. It's not going to work. It's not the fact that team needs.
That's totally unfair.
How can
it's not going to work? How can you say it's not going to work yet?
I think the team needs to be constructed differently for it to work. Is that fair?
And I
yeah, that's fair. But I think Boudreau does bring and you don't really know that either. Like
he's not bringing Ryan Getzlaf with them, and they need a number one center. That's where their weaknesses show.
Maybe they'll win in the seventh. Maybe they'll win in a game 7 because Getzlaf's not coming with them. I mean, it's like there's a lot of things that are happening.
Bruce Boudreau can't win in a game 7, so then that doesn't help.
Yeah, but he's not on the ice. I mean, that's all I can say about it.
At the end of the day, Boudreau was brought in because he's a good guy. Everybody likes him, so he goes from job to job to job to job because he's Brucey.
I think there's more than that.
It's a little more than that, but it's not a lot more than that because he doesn't have a lot of success. He might make the playoffs, but he bows out pretty quick. And at the end of the day, he's going to get those guys behind him, and he'll get more mileage out of them than they got before.
His team has won the Pacific Division 4 of the last 6 years. That's one of the toughest divisions in hockey.
So you think it was him and not the team?
Okay. No, but to sit there and say that he has not a lot of success, I mean, over the course of regular season, I think the coach is a little bit more important. I mean,
here's the problem with Minnesota.
I'm just saying to say he's not having a lot of success is kind of creepy.
He hasn't had a lot of success.
He's lost twice in the 7th game to 2 Stanley Cup champions who were very good. Then the other 2 7 games, I mean, you can say that, but really they're so
record in game 7.
It's horrible, and it's been horrible with Washington too, and all that is true. But you really is so overblown in terms of you have to look at each individual year. I mean, it's not just they have the Washington game 7 losses have nothing to do with the recent game 7 losses.
1 and 2 is a statistic. 1 and 7 is more than a trend. Yeah. It's an indicator.
So, because there's different teams. It's like 1 and 7 over the course of the team's 1 and 7 over the last 8 games. Yeah, that's one thing because that's the same team. This is 1 and 7 over 1 and 7 over the last 12 years, whatever it is.
How many coaches have lost game 7s at home 4 times in a row, Russ?
Yes.
Right. And I talked to somebody. I remember Josh, who used to work for us. Can't remember his last name. Josh, Josh Brewster. Josh Brewster.
Josh Brewster. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I mean, he was with us for a while, and he's a great guy, and I heard him talking on XM about this, and he said, and he actually nailed it better than anybody had heard. He said he shouldn't be fired for the game 7 losses. He should be fired for the 4 straight game 6 losses, and I totally agree with that. That is where
what's semantics?
No, but it isn't because game 6 is that game 7 is a coin toss, but the games. I just again haven't had any sleep this weekend. Sorry.
But here's the thing. At the end of the day, I want a coach that has a better record than that in Game 7s. If I want a team who I've spent a lot of money on, like the Wild have, to get over the hump.
Yeah.
That's the problem. He's not a coach.
Here's the problem. This has nothing to do with Bruce Boudreau. Here's the problem in Minnesota. Mikko Koivu, 6.7 a year. Thomas Vanek, 6.5 a year. Jason Pominville, 5.6 a year. There's your problem. Those are bad contracts.
No doubt.
No, I
and
totally...
even as much as I love Zach Parise, 7.5 a year is a hard cap hit to swallow. If you look at this team on paper, they should be scoring 4 goals a game, but they don't, and I don't understand that.
This is where I agree with you, Dan, because it's a brilliant point. Because here's the thing about those guys too, Vanek, and those 2 players, and other players they have on their team too. They wanted to go there, and it's kind of what I talked about with the Rangers. Why do you have to go over the top with players who want to go there? Vanek, you could have gotten for a lot less. He wanted to play there.
No. Vanek took the short.
He did take less. He took less there. He was offered more by the Islanders.
Still, though, I mean, you could have. Yeah, and then and Parise and Suter, they wanted to go there. Now, there's something about you take the players in there and you give them the contracts. And honestly, if you remember, the value on those guys when they were free agents was through the roof. You had to give them a lot of money. And you have to accept this to a degree. They had a lot of runs with them, and they haven't had a chance to win yet. So it's easy to criticize them now. And of course, Parise has been hurt so much. But when Parise was injured, when healthy this year, he was really good. So there's a lot of things there too. So
he's not repeated what he's done in New Jersey in Minnesota, which is surprising.
That's true.
The one thing that Boudreau could do or could try to do there. I mean, if you look at the Wild. Even going back to Jacques Lemaire, they've been essentially mostly a defensive team that's had trouble scoring. If he tries to get them to open up a little more offensively, they may have take advantage of guys like Coyle and Zucker. They have talent, but the problem is the core group that Dan pointed out is over 30 years old, slowing down, and injury prone, and it's going to be tough for that team to get any further than they've gotten. Now, I have to say that Boudreau in Minnesota was a better fit than in Ottawa because I think the ownership in Ottawa would have spent the money on Boudreau, and reportedly Boudreau got 4 years, $12 million from Minnesota.
Yeah.
If Ottawa would have paid that much, they would have taken that money out in terms of player contracts.
All right, but let's talk about that.
His results. This is Bruce Boudreau's results since winning an ECHL championship. I go back to the ECHL. Lost in round 2, lost in round 1, lost in round 1, lost in round 1, lost in round 1, lost in round 1. Then he won an AHL championship. Then he lost in the finals, and that was also in the AHL. Lost in round 1, lost in 2, lost in round 1, lost in round 2, out of the playoffs. Then you talk about his great success. Lost in round 1, lost in round 2, lost in round 3. That is not great success, Eck. It's not.
It's not great success. No, listen, it's hard to argue. I mean, obviously, this is a results-oriented business, right? So I get that, but at the same time, you have to looking at those individual teams. The 2 before this year's was kind of inexcusable, but in a way, this was the worst of them. Maybe actually, Detroit's was the worst. I take that back. This was Pekka Rinne stealing a series, but the last 2 were just teams that actually they played harder than anyone else played. So they were actually, you could argue, the second best team in the league those 2 years when they took LA to 7 games each of those. They took LA and the Chicago to 7 games. No one else took LA or Chicago to 7 games, if I remember right. So
how many great teams? How many really good teams? How many really good teams in the NBA didn't win a title because of those Jordan teams in the 90s?
Right, and that's
those Lakers teams in the 80s. I think that's what X's going with there.
Yeah.
Now like I said, if I'm a Wild fan, I'm not as concerned with who's coaching the team as how the roster is constructed and how it's handcuffed the organization because they can't make the moves they need to because they're up against the cap.
Right.
Right.
If you want to go with that, Eck, and I'll let you go with that premise,
yep.
When the Knicks did have Pat Riley, a known winner, they got pretty close. They were in it, and they almost won it. They didn't win it. Boudreau's never even got to the Stanley Cup.
No, but he got to his 7th game of a conference final last year. I mean, against a team that won the Stanley Cup in, 6? So...
I'm just saying. It's just.
I mean, it's a valid point, and it is a results-oriented business, and it was time for change. Like I said, I kind of compared it a lot to Barry Trotz in Nashville. It was good for Boudreau to get out of there. There was just, for whatever reason, the hockey gods were not into that relationship. That's how I see it, and that's how it plays out because really it was a matter of bounces with him. Now he goes to Minnesota. we need to get Dan Wallace, our writer from Blue Wild, on here because I know I've talked to him a lot this year, and he's like the Wild's biggest problem. He says is their defense, and he's and people don't talk about that as their problem. People always talk about their offense, but Dan, who I really trust, who watches them all the time, says honestly, when you watch them all the time, you realize that they have Dumba back there and they have Suter back there, but after that, they really have issues.
Well, and they have to get Dumba signed. He's an RFA,
right?
And they may have to trade Jonas Brodin to make room under the cap because they have little.
Brodin and Scandella are expensive.
Here's the problem. The last thing I'll say about Boudreau and Anaheim is this: I honestly think the biggest mistake he made was in the handling of his goaltenders, and the whole time he was there, and the inconsistency and the constantly having two goalies. And sometimes they say, "Oh, it's great you have two goalies," but the other saying is when you have two goalies, you really have no goalies. When you have two starting goalies,
that's the Stars.
We go,
right. That's the Stars, right?
Go back to his tenure in Washington.
Same thing. I know. That's why I'm saying this is exactly Boudreau. That is his biggest problem. Now here he's going to a team that has a legitimate one goalie system, right? They have one goalie in Minnesota.
He's not a legitimate one, but he's a one.
Well, he's
a good one.
He's a solid one. I mean, he had his slow start this year, but in the end towards the end of the year, he was really good again.
Bruce Boudreau just joined the Darcy Kemper fan club.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen. That's what I don't want to happen. Like to me, Gibson has been kind of screwed up by this. And I don't want to see that happen because Gibson's a great goalie. I think and Anderson's a great goalie too, but they should have made a call. They should have figured this out.
You need to define it.
Yeah, you need to define it.
Because then if you define it too, you can move forward and you can trade one of those guys and get an asset that you definitely need. Because if you traded Anderson, you get something real good for him. If you traded Gibson, you get something really good for him.
The Islanders did the right thing. They went out and they got a really legitimate backup in Greiss, and who can step up and play, but he's a backup for the most part. And yeah, he stepped up and became the starter. But next year it'll be back to Halak and Greiss and who plays. That's not going to be like I don't think, in my opinion. Do you think, Dan, that Greiss is taking this over and next year is anointed the starter?
It's going to be interesting to see what they want. I think basically what it comes down to is what do they want to do with Berube. They saw some flashes of him. Is he projected to be an NHL goalie? Because obviously you don't want to lose a 24-year-old for nothing.
Right.
So I think that's the question. What are you going to do with them? You can't keep three goalies on the roster again. If you included Halak in a deal with Hamonic, maybe do you get something even better? I don't know. But if you're asking me, I would opening day it should be Halak and Grice again.
Well, let's just touch on the Senators.
I want to go to Guy Boucher, and because this one is even more interesting to me. But go ahead, Russ. You have something else?
Devin Dubnyk, an .896 save percentage career in the playoffs. That ain't great.
It's not good. Nah, it's not good.
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, these are all true, but I think that at the end of the day, I think that I understand why the Wild did this. I follow that. Following the team.
I can see it.
They've tried the other way, and now they want to go with a coach who they can basically say, okay, the coach is not the issue now. We're going to have to take it forward. It kind of puts the players under stress. And then, granted, he's going to get to another Game 7 with Minnesota. There's going to be all the same people are going to talk about it again. But I think
the excuse is ready made when he faces Chicago or St. Louis, which is a team that's better.
If you lose to a Stanley Cup winner in Game 7, that's not a bad season. I mean, that's how I see it.
Eventually, you have.
This team has to make the playoffs, though. This team has to make the playoffs. They barely got in the last 2 years.
I think it was interesting his comment that he made. He says, I'm really happy to be in a place so hockey crazy here in Minnesota." Like that was an interesting shot at Anaheim. Not necessarily fair because I know a lot of Anaheim.
That's not fair.
I know a lot of I mean, I think a little bit of that is.
That's sour grapes walking out the door. I mean, I have
at the same time, Bruce, be careful what you're asking for because there's going to be a bigger microscope that he's going to be under in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, yeah, there definitely is. So. Guy Boucher, I love this. I love where both these coaches ended up too. Like if they ended up on the opposite teams, I would have issues with it. But Guy Boucher in Ottawa is the absolute perfect fit in my mind. He was in there, and Mark Crawford was announced as assistant today, right? So, and that's another. I mean, another. So we're looking at a serious. I mean, this is a serious hiring by the Sens. And here's the thing about Guy Boucher that I really think is going to be fascinating. I mentioned this before, but. Hearing him interviewed a couple times since he's been over in coaching for Bern, which means bear in Switzerland. That is, because I've been to that stadium, it's really cool. He has learned a lot in Europe, and he left here with the whole 1-3-1 system that everybody it was all defensive oriented, and remember how crazy it was in Tampa. Sometimes they would just they would sit back. I remember the one Flyers game that was kind of legendary, where the Flyers where no one moved around for like 2.5 minutes.
Yes.
No one skated anywhere. It was like all that you'd hate about soccer. But this whole thing. When I heard him interviewed, he was talking about how he loved coaching in Europe because there were some teams over there that were trying all kinds of experimental offenses and really cool things and really cool run and gun type things, and that he had really gotten into that and loved this concept of run and gun hockey. And when I look at the Penguins, where the Penguins are now, and we talk about them being a copycat league, and I look at the talent that the Senators have, I just think that this could really be interesting. I think this could be a really exciting team moving forward, and I'm psyched. I'm psyched to see it.
But ironically, what the Sens need is the Guy Boucher who coached the 1-3-1, because defensively they're hideous.
No, but here's
the X point. Here's X point.
Yeah.
There is some firepower up front with Ottawa. They can wait. They can get a little more balance in their bottom six. Yep. They definitely need a goalie. They have to get a clear number one that can carry a team, because if they could surround their defensemen and say, you know what, we don't have any stay-at-home defensemen. Let's get some more puck movers. Let's get some more guys, and let's just completely attack, because you can have a crappy defense if you have a really good goalie and you always have the puck.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and mimic Pittsburgh. I do.
I think that could work.
He's a good fit there. I think Crawford's a good fit because Crawford and Boucher are both really good with the power play. Ottawa's power play could have been better, a lot better. So I think they're looking for that. A guy like Patrick Weirkoch is a guy that almost got traded, but really could be utilized more for his offense if they wanted to.
I like Weirkoch a lot, actually.
Yeah,
so maybe they'll turn that around. Mike Hoffman played for Boucher. So this is good. I like coaches getting another chance rather than recycling a coach that never is out. And I think Boucher has learned something. I do.
But the funny thing is, I mean, in terms of mobility on defense, you do have Carlson, who's probably the best skating defenseman in the league, Cody Ceci, and Weirkoch is a good offensive defenseman. You also have Dion Phaneuf, who we could see from his lack of mobility in Toronto, his decreasing mobility, that he's going to be a bit of a hindrance. And Mark Mathata isn't exactly fleet of foot either. So the thing is that with Eugene Melnyk as the owner there, you do not have. You are not going to be a cap team. So you're going to have to manage that team a lot better and get a lot more out of players for a more reasonable budget. I think Boucher can do that, but I don't think he can be Mr. Experimental offensively. I think he's got to develop a core concept defensively.
No, you don't anymore.
They ain't trapping. Carlson, you got Carlson. You're not trapping. You're just not.
No, to me, this is you take a chance and you try to be, because you can't compete with some teams defensively. You just can't. I mean, and there's no way they're going to
score goals.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to be able to. And they're in the perfect division for this. Like, they're in the division where Florida's sort of heading this way, Tampa's heading this way. I think Toronto is still kind of defensive-minded, but they are also heading that way. Montreal
especially when they get Patrick Laine, too.
Right, and Laine is going to add a lot to the Maple Leafs on and off the ice. So I think that the way this is heading, and looking what Pittsburgh did now, I really want to get the interview sometime and play it for you guys, part of it, because I was really impressed. The interview on XM, I hope they replay it, because I talked to Guy Boucher before he was here, right? And he was a hard person to talk to. He was also he obviously has some of the best stares in all of hockey. Like, he's the death stare. He can stare down a ref like no one's business. But he
looks like a Bond villain.
He does. He looks so much like a Bond villain. That's awesome. But yeah, But he also really isn't. He's super intense, and when you talk to him, he's got that real big intensity to him. And before, he was very careful with his words. And going over to Europe, I think, just got him. It helped him loosen up, helped him realize like some perspective on us all. That it's just hockey, and that he really now he sounds like the innovator that everybody kind of thought he would be when he came in. That was his thing, right, Russ? When he came in, he was going to be like an innovative coach.
Here's an interesting thing about his burn team roster-wise. So his leading scorer is Corey Conacher. I mean, he might get another shot. He might.
Right.
Hey, remember, it was last season. Last season, Corey Conacher started the opening night roster on the first line with John Tavares.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
His
I know, and then he went on.
Scorer is Derek Roy. He might get another shot.
Right.
Right. There's a 26-year-old Simon Moser who's 6'2", 216, had 33 points, and then was 8 points in the playoffs. I got to tell you, he might get a look because he's got size. He'll bring over a few guys. I'm pretty sure of it.
Well,
I think he will too. He's a very loyal type character, and he's very. I mean, he doesn't care. He'll try interesting things.
Yeah, but to that point, Russ, Binghamton was one of the worst teams in the American Hockey League this year. They have some young prospects, but nobody who really – I mean, Tobias Lindbergh, who was included in the Phaneuf deal, was one of their better prospects down in the AHL.
No, but Matt Pumpel's got a ton of offensive ability. He can get his shot.
Right, I agree, and then they have Colin White, who is going back for another year of college, which was a good decision. Yeah. But I'm saying the guys who are top echelon in their organization are a year or two away from being able to help them. So you could see stopgaps that he brings from the Swiss league to help them this year.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I really want to see that. That's all the time we have, I think, for today. Anything else, guys? You got anything else?
Nope.
One more thing I got to throw out there. This is just crazy, and this really isn't a long discussion. I cannot understand how I tweeted this out. How these hockey players over in Europe are able to deal with the music that's being played during these games. I mean, it is off the charts loud and cheesy, and it's like they're always saying the crowd's sitting on its hands. Well, part of that is you don't give the friggin' crowd a chance to breathe. Like the game, I'm a big fan of the old Oregon where fans could talk to each other about what happened in the play after when there was a stoppage, get a second, and then like what Nashville does where they have nothing in the middle of the third period and people go crazy. They literally the puck is frozen and it's like bop 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 bop. It's just and it's so loud and it's just awful. Like some of them are just
screaming sections. They have true sections where people are jumping up and down, holding signs, waving, and screaming and whistling and everything.
I mean, in St. Petersburg, you don't go to St. Petersburg to hear Ariana Grande, like at mega volumes. It's just the insanity over there is.
Well, apparently the Team Canada played the Hungarians, and there was a lot of commentary on social media after that the Hungarian fans were acting wild throughout the game. So I mean, maybe they were just they weren't distracted by the house music that was being pumped in, having their own little party. So maybe there's an exception to the rule. I honestly, I've watched 2 games of the World Championships, and that's 2 more than I thought I was going to.
Wow, that's something. We're gonna be doing this thing coming up too, and we want your opinion on it. We're gonna be doing this thing. I was talking to the guys about it on the show the other day after we logged off the air with you guys. There's a podcast I love called Stuff You Should Know. And it's a really cool podcast. Yeah, you listen to it. Did you just listen to it?
That and Things You Missed in History Class. It's the same organization. I love that podcast.
The Stuff You Should Know LSD podcast, just Stuff You Should Know about LSD that was just unbelievable. But
Things They Missed in History Class, which is nothing for me since I have a master's in it.
No, they get to some pretty obscure things.
No, they do. They're really good at it.
Really, really cool.
There's like I said, the Lewis and Clark one from last year was off the charts awesome, and this LSD one was just I never knew half the stuff about LSD, and then
there was one about how the Germans landed in Long Island during World War II. It was actually this really happened.
I know.
They Montauk, and they actually got their way almost. They were trying to get to New York City, and some of them got to D.C. It's very. You never heard about that.
Traffic on the Sagathos when they did that.
The reason why it failed is because they got stuck in the southern state.
So what I wanted to do at the end of the show, at the end of some of our shows now, since we don't have the exciting and all-encompassing NHL Draft Simulator, is do a Stuff You Should Know about obscure things in hockey or certain players. So if you have something you'd like to learn more about, like the puck sizes, how the puck's made, there's a great How It's Made on Pucks, by the way, if that's another great show, How It's Made. But there's a lot of cool things. Or just to get into depth a little bit about a player, I wanted to do one today quickly on Austin Matthews. It's just something that I did a little research on some kind of obscure facts on Austin Matthews because we talked about it a little bit.
The presumptive second pick in the draft.
The guy who before being passed over by the Maple Leafs, this is what's happened in his life. He was born in San Francisco actually, which I didn't realize. And his mother is Mexican, like actually from Mexico. Which I thought was kind of cool. He was only 2 months old though when he moved to Arizona. So he didn't spend a lot of time at Hayton Iceberry there in San Francisco. But he was only 2 months old. He moved there, and growing up, of course, was a Coyotes fan. His 2 favorite players, who they would be? Any guess as a Coyotes fan of that?
I just interviewed him, and I don't remember if I asked him.
Shane Doan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unplug your USB thing, Dan. Again, it happens. That's so weird. Every time, at the 1 hour point or something like that, it happens.
I was thinking Doan was there.
Shane Doan and Danny Briere, very good. When his 6th birthday was when he first wanted to play. Said he had a desire to play hockey. He wanted to play hockey, and but when he was younger, he also played baseball. And his father says that baseball was his best sport.
Wow.
For what it's worth. He was drafted 57th overall into the WHL by the Everett Silvertips, but opted to play instead in the USNTVDDP.
NTDP, just say that.
NTDP
That's
Juniors,
a horrible abbreviation.
which otherwise known as the USHL.
Yeah.
Right, it's also the also known as the USHL, correct? Pretty much.
Well, it's not really because
No, it's different.
they venture out.
It's a team in the USHL.
Right.
Yeah, it's a development team that travels pretty much.
They're a traveling team, yeah.
So that team, I think he was 16 when he was drafted, or 15 when he was drafted into that. The season he played for, that season he played for the U.S. National U17 team, though, where he did first gain his national attention. In his second season with the U.S. National U18 team, Matthews finished first in the league with scoring with 116 points. And he broke the national team development program record, which was before 116, was 102 points. Who do you think that record was? Who held that record for the national team development program?
Zach Parise.
Patrick Kane.
Patrick Kane, very good. And also was 29 points better than Jack Eichel the year before. So we talked about, where he would have been drafted, in that whole thing. He actually was.
Sounds like somebody the Leafs are going to regret skipping over.
Yes. Of course, Matthews trained with the USA National Team Development during the 2013-14 and 14-15 seasons. Was named the 2015 Most Valuable Player at the World U18 Championships. Of course, in addition to being named the IIHF All-Star Team and named the IIHF Best Forward after finishing as the tournament's top scorer. This is in the U18 tournaments. And of course, instead of rather than continuing U.S. hockey or playing the Canadian Junior Leagues, he went professional and, as we know, last year played in the Swiss League, which means that, obviously our buddy who also coached in the Swiss League we just talked about saw him plenty.
And Mark Crawford coached him.
Right. His Swiss League team was the best team in the league during the regular season, the ZSC Lions, but they were swept in the first round in a really kind of a crazy thing. And his line mate, I lost this. I found this, but it was a former NHLer in Switzerland who he credits for a lot. And gosh, I can't remember what it was. But
Robert Nielsen.
Who was it?
Robert Nielsen.
Oh,
Robert
God.
Nielsen. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
God.
you.
Also known as the player drafted before Zach Parise.
Right. There you
By
go.
the New York Islanders.
He can speak some Spanish because obviously his mom was from Mexico.
Bueno.
No bueno.
His favorite players in the NHL right now, he says, are Jonathan Toews and Anze Kopitar.
Yeah.
He credits that because of that they play an all-around both offensive and defensive game.
200-foot game.
Right.
That's
200-foot game.
That's the new cliche.
Yes, a 200-foot player, even though he's only 6 foot something. Yeah, so there you have it. There's a little stuff you should know about Austin Matthews for today.
He's a really good golfer. You left that out.
Oh, really good golfer? Okay. Yeah, and
But
yes,
he's grown up there. The other thing, because you mentioned the NTDP thing, Clayton Keller in this year's draft broke all the records for career NTDP points. Yes.
Wow. So where is he expected to go in this draft?
I have him 8th right now.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
There you go. So that's right around the point at which who drafts around 8th? It's like
Coyotes.
Yeah, right, around the Coyotes time.
Yeah.
So there you have it. And he's also a very mature kid, as you know, Russ, from talking to him. He's got his life together. He's very, very close with his mother, who I believe lived with him all year in Switzerland, which is a smart move. And
Smart move. Very smart move.
Which is really smart. And sometimes players, younger players are just sent on their own, and I always think it's a good idea. I mean, the one thing the Flyers always did, which was very funny, is the French-Canadian parents especially want their kids to be with somebody. They don't want them to be out on their own. And so both when Claude Giroux and Sean Couturier, who's not French-Canadian, obviously, but just a Canadian. But when I remember with Giroux specifically, they set them both up with Danny Briere, who lived with Danny Briere, and that was always fascinating to see.
It was.
So, to me, I think that's pretty good stuff. So, so that's all for today. We'll be back again tomorrow with more, and we've got 2 great games tonight. Enjoy those games. I don't know if we're going to see Game 7s. I sure hope so. I'm one of those guys who just roots for Game 7s. So remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you soon.